Can you hear me? Hello? Yep. Right. Hello, everyone. So, thanks for having me today. Lars asked me to come and speak about what's happening in BIM within the UK, and I'm in the perfect position. So, because I work for a Norwegian business, but are from Britain, I get the best of both worlds, because when I'm in Britain, I always say, oh, in Norway, they do things so much better in BIM, and these guys know how to use IFC, and they get their data from the merchants. And then when I'm in the UK, and when I'm in Norway, I go, oh, in Britain, we've got a really good plan, and we know how to deliver data, and so I get the best of both worlds. I always talk it up to one to the other. But I honestly think it's quite funny, because people always ask me, what's one country like compared to the other? And I think Norway have been the leaders in open BIM over the years, and as Lars mentioned, the government here has put a lot of money into building smart and open BIM standards, such as IFC, and making them work. And I really think the Norwegian industry has really taken the use of designing, especially, and use of models and open BIM to their heart and driven it. However, I think they've kind of lost the way a bit in the use of it, in how do we use the information and the data in the actual construction and then operation phase. And I think that's where the UK is kind of coming from to some degree, which is a really good place to come from in regards to how do we use information to design and build and construct better. So that's my quick, if you like, thoughts on where we are. But I'll just talk about what the UK is doing. And not all of it is perfect. But at least we have a target, and at least the industry is starting to, instead of having a load of rowing boats all rowing in different directions, we're all at least rowing and pointing in the same direction. We might all still be in different boats, but at least we're heading in the right direction. So BIM, we know all this. It's not 3D, it's here and now. It's about collaboration, the use of models to share information based on structured data, and then from the design, operation, and management phase. I'm not going to bore us with that. But I think in regards to the UK, the whole point around BIM is around better information management, as opposed to building information modeling. And I think that's a really good phrase for BIM, because that's what it's all about. It's how do we share data and information better through from the design phase right the way through to the operation phase. Now, I quite like this. This quote was from hundreds of years ago. I should get the name of the guy who said it. Information is generally incorrect, incomplete, uncoordinated, and ambiguous. How many hands up, how many projects we've worked on where it's like this? If you haven't got your hand up, you're lying, because every project is like this. So what are we going to do about it? That's what the BIM program, in effect, in the UK is about, is to help with that. So the answers, if you like, to get over that problem is that we need to share a common approach, a common way of sharing information, a common way of sharing and working collaboratively. And that's developed in a standard called, it's a British standard, BS 1192 2007. And then who does what and when, in terms of what the actors are, in terms of the sharing and the delivery of the information and data. That's in a publicly available specification called PAS 1192, Part 2 and Part 3. So those are the standards around this whole information sharing approach, how you should do it. Then we need a common language. Well, in terms of the way of classifying stuff, they've set up Uniclass. But in terms of the actual properties, we'll come to that in a moment, in product data templates and the utilization of tools and such as the Building Smart Data Dictionary. Then we need a common data structure. So again, we all know about IFC here. Now, fortunately or unfortunately, the UK government didn't mandate IFC. They mandated something called COBie, which is a cut-down version of an IFC without geometry. And the reason for that is what they wanted to do is, and they had good intentions, they wanted the facilities managers, the operators, to receive structured data. So what they thought was, well, let's use COBie because it's a standardized format for structured information at handover. So it's about handing over data at different stages, primarily aimed at the handover from the construction to the operation phase. So that's why they chose the COBE structure. And then you need to know who needs to do what and when. And that's something called the Digital Plan of Works. So what the UK government approach is to do is to we've made standards, if you like, to help us in better ways of working to understand this whole thing about ambiguity. Now, it's not the first time in the UK that we've looked at how to improve the construction industry. And I'm sure in Norway and every other country we've been doing this for years. How do we improve? How do we improve? And there's been all these reports over the years. Big ones, Latham, most famous ones in the UK are Latham and Egan reports in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Saying, and then they came from guys from the manufacturing sector, from Jaguar Land Rover, one of them was from. And they said, as an industry, we are completely uncoordinated and we do things so badly. And from that came this whole approach of, you might have heard of it, lean thinking, lean practices. That's what they've been doing in manufacturing for many, many years. But we all went away then, because I was in the industry then as well, and thought, how do we improve? How do we get lean? How do we do things better? But none of us has anything really we're all going around a bit like headless chickens, doing our own little bit. And I think the point of what BIM does in the BIM Level 2 program is to give you actual standards and frameworks to work towards so that we all point in the same direction and we all understand it's like the structure around how we should collaborate better as opposed to just all trying to do our own thing individually. So there's been various reports, and then finally a couple of guys, fair play to them, Mark Bew and Mervyn Richards, convinced the UK government because of successful trials of BIM on the main project was Heathrow Terminal 5, and there's been other projects as well, and they said by using BIM we've basically saved time and improved quality. So fair play, they convinced the government that it was a good idea to roll BIM out. And the UK government then had their strategy to say that we want lower costs, lower emissions, faster delivery, and improved exports. And they saw that BIM, if you like, could help with that. So here it is. It's 31st of May 2011, the government construction strategy to reduce costs. Now, within that strategy, it said we are going to mandate that all UK government-funded projects must be to BIM Level 2. And then BIM Level 2 wasn't fully defined. But they made that mandate. And I think that's the most important thing that happened, which kind of Lars was alluding to, is it kind of made all the industry sit up and take notice. Because whilst all the UK government procured projects is only a small percentage of the total in the UK, it's basically things like prisons, hospitals, but it doesn't include a lot of stuff. Because it's of a significant size, it actually made the industry really take note and think, right, we need to do something about this. So this is the famous wedge, and there's a bit of a joke, there's something called in the UK, because there's a BIM conference in the UK every single day of the year. And you play BIM bingo. And actually, if I say certain things or you see certain slides, you put that in your thing, and you shout bingo once you've done all that stuff. And this is like the number one thing for BIM bingo. The Mark Bew, Mervyn Richards wedge. And this was set up in 2010 or 11, 12, I can't remember which, and basically said their journey. And the journey was, level 0 is just unstructured pieces of paper. The way we used to do, architects used to just draw. And level 1 is the use of, basically you might use CAD, or you might use 3D models, but the most important thing is about sharing, file-based collaboration sharing. So think Dropbox on steroids. Dropbox with rules. So how do we share information between the supply chain in the design and the construction phase primarily together in a collaborative way? And that's what's something called a common data environment. So that's what BIM Level 1 is. And BIM Level 2 then, which has now been mandated, so from this April, all government projects should be requiring BIM Level 2. That basically used the common data environment, and it also included then COBE, so you had to give a COBE export, and you had to do certain things in certain ways, which I'll come to in a minute. So the standards that you must use in the UK are PAS 1192 Part 2, which is about BIM in design and construction, PAS 1192 Part 3, which is about operation. 1192 Part 4 is about the data methodology, which is COBE. Part 5 came much later, which is an interesting run, around security. Now, what happened was, it's quite interesting, the program was busy developing all this, and then all of a sudden, literally MI5 said, hang on here, we're building nuclear power plants. Not everyone in the world loves the UK. Surely we don't want to get this information out to people, which is a really good point. So there needs to be standards to how we protect the data. And then the one that's missing here, which was actually part from BIM Level 1, which is probably the most important one of all, was BS 1192 2007, which is this whole point about the common data environment and how we share information. And then there's documents to support it. Classification, unit class, the digital plan of work, government soft landings, and the CIC protocol, which is really around the contractual parts of BIM. So, the key points of BIM Level 2. The most important part is the development of information requirements. And this comes back to this whole conversation today about information and data. So within the employer's information requirement, they need to set out at the beginning of a project what information and data they need to make the right decisions. And that can be from cost, to carbon, to products, to everything. And they should stay within that, within the asset information requirement and the employer's information requirement, the data that they really want, that's set out. So that's really important. Then when the client then, the contractor then receives the information requirements, they develop something called a BIM execution plan. Basically, they say, this is how we're going to deliver this project for you. These are our partners, these are the expertise, this is the way we're going to work collaboratively, this is the way how we're going to meet the data requirements. And we work in a common data environment. And then we work then collaboratively following the PAS 1192 Part 2 processes. And then at the end, we need to deliver accurate as-built information. And that accurate as-built data needs to sit in COBE. And IFC as well, but COBE's a subset. So back to this point, for the employer, they need to set out their deliverables. And it's famous, it's well known in the UK, EIRs, they're called EIRs, Employees Information Requirements. It's a bit like, have you ever seen a unicorn? You know, have you ever seen a good EIR? So the industry is really trying to struggle to actually get to good ones because they're so important for the rest of the supply chain to understand what they're doing. So, what data do you want? This is another one from BIM Bingo, which you might like to steal. This is Kobe Carl, as he's affectionately known. And the point, you show this slide, and I love this slide, is this is the industry today. The facilities manager receives a shed load of paper. So when he goes to operate his building, or her, where does he find this information? Now, the Ministry of Justice, which Lars alluded to earlier, fair play, they're leading the charge from the government departments. And what we've worked with them, co-builder, is to work out their data requirements. So what property types, what product types and what properties, this is only little snapshots, are they interested in? So fire rating, acoustic rating, thermal performance, security. This is all good data that's not just in a CAFM system, in other words, an operating facilities management data operating system. They want extra data. And as you can see, this is against, you'll be pleased to see this from Norway, IFC property types. So now the client is saying, this is the data we want. Don't just send us a load of PDFs. So what different data do the actors want? The contractor might need, if they're making a BREEAM excellent building, they need data, global warming potential of the products, or BREEAM A rated or B rated. They might need health and safety data. We saw the thing mentioned before about REACH, certain chemicals we don't want in buildings. Quality information, assembly instructions, but the one often we're missing as well is cost information. And as the point I got at the bottom is, it's not just about CAFM, basic bits of information. There's good data that we really need, that we need to be able to sharing. And what format do you want this data in? So within BIM Level 2, you have to deliver it in these three formats. You need to deliver it, actually you only have to deliver it in the two, but you'll do the third because it's obvious. PDFs, where we've always done things, BIM level 0. Data, that's a COBie spreadsheet about the products and everything that goes into the building. It's basically the whole BIM without the geometry. And the geometry. Now, you don't have to provide for geometry, but you'd be a bit mental to do a BIM project without using geometry. So what data then do we share? So as I showed you from the Ministry of Justice, they've asked for specific data. Now, a project data template is basically, as Lars was talking about, all the information about, you can't read it, you don't need to read it. That's just a product type, say a window. The window, if you're a window manufacturer, you've got so much information and data about your windows, but it's all stuck in these PDFs. And what this is doing is basically, what we're doing is bringing out the properties out of the PDFs and making it machine readable. But based on standards, based on the CPR standards mostly. So all this is doing is now that the manufacturer has their data and has got it machine readable. Now, if I'm the Ministry of Justice, I say, I want on fire doors, I need the fire rating, the U value, the whatever. I can't think of ones off the top of my head. But what they can do is they can then pick that data from the data template or the data sheet from that manufacturer. So manufacturers in the UK now are starting to wake up. What's happened is they've been missold for years. They've all been sold that they have to make 3D BIM objects, which is a lot of rubbish. Sometimes you do, for certain reasons. One, because you want to advertise and market your product and say, if you're an architect, guys, you can put out a 3D object into your model. Or two, if you've got something so specific that there's no generic 3D object. But Skanska UK has said, stop sending us objects. We don't want your objects, we want your data. And that's a really big, that's kind of hit the industry now, because they're saying, give us your data, don't give us your objects. We're a tribute to your data, to the objects, but the generic objects in the model, so in Revit or Navisworks, well, they actually do it in Revit and Navisworks. So you might want an object for certain reasons, but the most important bit is about sharing data. So what does your data look like? This is a product data sheet. This is in GoBIM, which is our system. And this just shows it's not very good quality, sorry, but this is Wienerberger, a Wienerberger tile. And then there's the data about that Wienerberger tile and which standards the data comes from, back from standards from CPR. So that now, if I'm the Ministry of Justice project, and I've got tiles, and I want specific COBie information, I can say here, COBie type, color, I don't know what it is, but the point is now they can come and extract the data they need from Wienerberger. And this is what manufacturers have got to do. Common data environment, I mentioned that quickly, so I'm not going to, just for time, I'm not going to dwell on it. This is the important point, is that as the team is working together, they have work in progress areas. If you like, think about it in your Dropbox with steroids. You work in progress areas where you share, collaborate, you then agree them, someone agrees them, and they then go to a rubber stamp shared area between the whole team, and then authorized for then passing over. So it's a way of controlling the quality of the information. It's having structured information flows. So Lars showed this diagram. I'll just quickly do it now. Now, this looks like, wow, a bit of a headache. But the point here is what it's setting is you need the employee's information requirement, the BIM execution plan, and then through the construction phase, you need to give data deliverables through the construction phase, and then you give the information, as I mentioned before, as documents, PDFs, COBie, and the graphical information. Almost finished, 30 seconds. So finally, then, we produce the as-built models. We've got all the data. We've got it all from the PDSs. We've collected all the information. Now we can start attributing to the model the actual data from the product data sheets into the model so that we've now got an as-built model we hand over to the clients, and we've now got all the COBie data populated. And finally, when you can now got this information, we can now start doing clever stuff, analytics, future cities, smart buildings, and about how we do telemetry. Now, that's BIM level 3, and none of that is possible without doing the basics. And the basics is getting our data right, structuring it, and sharing it properly. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Nick, just a question, or clarifying, to clarify. BIM level 2 requires COBie. I don't think everyone here actually understands what COBie is, but it's kind of a middle stage. It actually creates a spreadsheet. The problem we have now is that when you create these spreadsheets now, they're so big that you're not able to use Excel. They're so big. So that is BIM level 2. And the whole point of COBE is for facility management's FTV-systemer to have a standardized way of getting data. That's the whole concept. And that you have defined values, information to deliver as a contractor. So the manufacturer actually knows what he has to deliver, the subcontractor, the contractor, and the client knows what he actually will get. So I think that many European countries will not have the BIM level 1, 2, and 3. I think most of them will go directly into IFC, which I think is more the definition BIM level 3 in the UK.
I wouldn't agree. BIM level 3 is more about the whole kind of telemetry side and the smart cities side. But you're right to say that IFC is in BIM level 3. You're not wrong to say that, but that's not about level 3. That's just something that you'd use in level 3. So IFC has been stated to be used in level 3. They use this interim step, again, you're right, which is COBE, which is a subset of IFC anyway, which a lot of people argue, why bother? But to make BIM level 3 happen, you're right, you would use IFC.
Yeah. So COBE is used in the US. It actually comes from the US Army, which defined what they need when they operate buildings. So they are very strict on what they need, and that is set out. So the UK actually saw that. What kind of requirements should we set? Let's do what they do in the US. So they have taken it and adjusted it a little bit. But they have then created something for the industry to deliver a data in the construction chain. So thank you, Nick.
Thank you.